Hello, everyone. Welcome to Court with Krissy. I've got a couple updates on SovCit, Lord Ophi, whatever the F it is, Bay, who seems to be causing more trouble in Traverse City. But first, a quick fun clip from the DDC that even gets the prosecutor laughing. I hope you like it. Court with Krissy is now in session.
Step on that black line, face the camera, say your full name.
Kamani Deontay Ramsey. Didn't we just do Mr. Ramsey?
Yeah, Mr. Ramsey.
Somebody probably took my name or something. See, they not even watching. They nothing about you wrong. See, they not even watching. Did I get a personal?
Somebody did.
I'm trying to go home to my kids.
That was funny. That was funny.
Oh my God.
I'm being honest. They told me to step out.
Step out this way.
Who do we arraign as Mr. Ramsey then?
Let's go ahead and take up Mr. Officius Bay, please. Okay, we have Mr. Graff here. Mr. Graff, is your client with you by chance?
Good afternoon. No, he's not, Your Honor. I think there's a lot of background to what we're doing here today that I'm sure between Mr. Olson, Mr. Herman, and myself, we can hopefully fill the court in. Mr. Herman may be in the best position to kind of update the court on why we're here.
All right. I would note I had a brief conversation with Judge Hamlin regarding this matter. So I have a little bit of shade on it, but let's go ahead and fill in the canopy. Mr. Herman, if you would please go ahead and advise the court as to where we stand on People versus Fiacus Bay, please. Oh, you are on mute, sir.
I'll do that.
Oh, wait.
We
can hear you.
I just heard you.
All right, very good.
All right.
All right, Your Honor. So this last weekend, Mr. Bay got the attention of Traverse City law enforcement. They went to the house on Saturday, attempted to make contact with him between him and his girlfriend, Zoe. Contact was ultimately not made. Traverse City Police Department received a call on Sunday regarding a similar issue with a possible domestic violence between the girlfriend Zoe and Mr. Bay. At that time, Mr. Lord did come to the door, and he was arrested by Traverse City Police Department for a probation violation detainer for failing to report to his probation officer after he was released on bond, and failing to report police contact for an incident that happened a week prior. So he was serving a 72-hour detainer when the court, I believe, or the jail misidentified it was as a bond violation instead of a probation violation, hence the hearing that was scheduled for Monday.
All right. So is there a probation violation matter?
Your Honor, there is now a probation violation matter because at the end of his 72-hour detainer, I put on there for him to be released and report directly to the probation department. He was then notified by Deputy Seberg at the time of release on the 16th to report to the probation department, and he never reported yesterday. So I did an amended warrant. I believe it was count 6. And it should be in your on-base signature box today.
Okay.
Should already be there, actually.
All right. And is Mr. Fiacus Bay being held right now?
He's not, Your Honor. I attempted to make phone calls to him yesterday advising him of this hearing, and I was unsuccessful of reaching him.
All right. And Mr. Olson, do you have anything to add to this panoply of information?
I think I do, Your Honor. I think that this is actually the case that we have right now in front of Your Honor is there's nothing to proceed on at this point. I think it's a probation violation. It's not a bond violation in the case that Your Honor has motioned up for today. So I believe there'd be no action taken in this case, and await his arrest and appearance on the probation violation warrant would be my suggestion on how to proceed.
All right, thank you, Mr. Olson. Mr. Graff, would you like to weigh in, sir?
Your Honor, I concur. It sounds like that's the accurate depiction of the event. I would just ask, I guess, that the bond violation be dismissed. Obviously, if there is an issue with probation, that can be addressed. If I do understand correctly, it sounds like those are technical violations. And if I understand from previous court appearances, it would be the second round. So I think the maximum at that point would be 30 days. We do have court coming up on August 2nd. I guess just for the court's information regarding potentially if he is arrested and a bond is set. I also want to make sure, for the record, as I understand it, he was the potential victim of domestic violence, not the perpetrator. So I don't want the court to be under the impression that he was being investigated for committing a new crime. I think the only issue is that he did not report, as Mr. Herman indicated.
All right, that's useful information. Thank you. All right, it appears that Mr. Afiakis Bey was mistakenly identified as someone who was involved in a potential bond violation. That does not appear to be the case. To the extent we have a bond violation in the file as part of the matter that the court has taken up today, that matter is dismissed. It also appears that there is a amended warrant for a probation violation that is being alleged by the department. Assuming that that matter is circulating its way to the court, should the court execute it, we will deal with that appropriately, including, if appropriate, taking the defendant into custody and conducting a hearing, etc., when that time comes. But we're not dealing with that yet. We'll do so if and when that time does come. I think that resolves our matters for today. Is there anything else that we can address for you, Mr. Graff, today?
No, thank you very much.
And Mr. Herman?
So thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Olson?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thanks, everyone. All right, let's go ahead and call the 2 o'clock matter, which is People of the State of Michigan versus Lord Afiakis Bey, file 23-14453 FC. Time, date, and place set for a few matters. We moved a final conference this morning, a motion hearing on an objection that the defendant filed, and also we have this matter set for a probation violation hearing today at 2 o'clock. With us here in court, we have Mr. Graff. His client has not appeared. On video today, we have Mr. Chandler from the department. Ms. Henry is our clerk. Mr. Atwood is here from the prosecutor's office. Ms. Copeland is our court reporter, and we're handling this matter both by video conference and in person. Mr. Graff, if you could advise the court as to the status of your client, if you know anything.
Thank you, Honor. I guess kind of recap.
Just a moment before you proceed. Can everybody hear Mr. Graff? Thumbs up.
If he can just speak up a little, that would be great.
He will not be speaking faster, just a bit louder. Please continue, Mr. Graff.
Thank you, Honor. And to recap what Your Honor indicated, we're here this morning for a final conference. My client did not appear. We were directed to show up for the final conference this afternoon along with the probation violation hearing. There was a flurry of filings in both the probation case as well as the new case that happened just prior to 8 o'clock this morning. I don't see my client here. He contacted my office. I spoke to him about 1:30. So I actually had to leave the conversation to come to be physically present in court here today. The issue that I'm having at this point is a number of things. The first is my client asked me to file for it, and his word was a continuance based upon the information he submitted, which was rejected, wanting me to refile that information. That puts me in a tough position. This court previously denied a motion that he filed to represent himself. And so he's asking me to make filings that have been rejected. I don't know if ethically I can file those. And so it puts me in a difficult position on whether that's created a breakdown or how I proceed. I understand that the court's position then is if Jake won't file it, what is the next person going to do if they have the same conversation with my client? But I also understand that according to the ethical rules, if a client persists on me taking action, which is prohibited by the rules, I may not be able to proceed as counsel. And so I guess I'm asking for some direction on how we proceed, because it seems that we've reached an impasse here on a number of issues on what we do. I guess that's kind of where we stand at this.
All right, do the people have a position with regard to the concerns that have been raised by Mr. Graff?
No, Your Honor, we leave it to the court's discretion.
Okay, Mr. Ophiuchus Bey fancies himself a sovereign citizen. Sovereign citizens, people who identify as same, have been known certainly throughout the practice that this court has seen over the last 8 years as judge to file unusual, unsupported, unsubstantiated legally or factually motions. They tend to clog up the system, require a great deal of work on the part of the staff, both at the clerk's office and at the circuit court office, to maneuver through and to determine whether or not they've been appropriately filed and should be scheduled as hearings. The court has had a chance to review, I believe, most of the filings that have been made by Mr. Ophiuchus Bey. First, I think I was clear to him the last time that he was before me that any of his filings from now on needed to go through counsel. I did that intentionally, knowing that Mr. Graff ethically would only be able to file those matters for which there is some basis in fact or law, and would be ethically prohibited from filing any other matter. My thought was that would probably have the effect of limiting any filings by Mr. Ophiuchus Bey on his own behalf or otherwise that don't comply with the court rule or some court rules or an existing or extended version of the law. That doesn't seem to have worked. I understand the position Mr. Graff is in. However, he's right. This same position is the position that any other attorney worth his salt representing Mr. Ophiuchus Bey would be in. And someone would have to make a decision regarding whether to file something under their own name or not. My expectation is, of course, that Mr. Graff would not file something that is inappropriate pursuant to his ethical obligations, both to this court and to his client. And if that becomes an issue for him, then we'll address that at some point in the future. However, because Mr. Ophiuchus Bey, despite my earlier instructions to the contrary, continues to file matters on his own that do appear, at least at first blush, to be without a basis in fact in law, and certainly outside the scope of Mr. Graff's representation of him, I am hereby directing that Mr. Ophiuchus Bey file no further matters in either of the cases that he has here in circuit court. No further pleadings unless those pleadings bear the signature of Mr. Graff. And that may bring to issue the concern Mr. Graff has raised today regarding his continued representation sooner than later. But regardless, that is the order of the court at this time. Any questions, Mr. Graff?
Not regarding that. I guess the next step would be, obviously, part of the discussion is previously we run into the problem that my client indicated he does not consent to proceedings. And so that's part of the problem. And so he won't sign a document if we submit one. And so I want the court's direction to be a record. Obviously, I can submit the final conference memorandum. I can simply fail to appear for today. But I guess moving forward, we may have to have the same conversation on his lack of signature on various forms that be submitted.
All right. I appreciate you advising the court as to that. It doesn't appear that's necessary to address given the defendant's failure to appear here today. You're correct. You can certainly file the issue with regard to the pretrial with the court and do that as an FTA. And that will be appropriate. And if we run into an issue in the future with regard to your client's signature, we'll address it once he's brought into custody, because I am going to issue a warrant in the, let's see, do we have a warrant currently, Mr. Atwood, in either of these cases?
I think there may be one in the probation violation matter, Your Honor. I'm not aware of one existing in the pending criminal case, so we can certainly send over a bench warrant on that issue.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Chandler, is that correct? You've got a warrant out?
Yes, Your Honor, for absconding on 7/16.
All right. In the criminal case, the new criminal case, the court does issue a bench warrant That's a $10,000 cash bench warrant. 50-mile pickup. And once Mr. Fiacus Bay is brought into custody, we'll address the remaining issues. Anything else we can address today for you, Mr. Graff?
No, thank you, and just so I think court repeat itself. The motion regarding the objection to the prior order, we'll pick that up when my client is brought back to court.
That's correct, sir.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Anything for the people?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
And Mr. Chandler?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.